Hey guys, this is Chelsea with Hennapreneur, and today I've got JessiKay of JessiKay Henna with me. She's from Louisville, Kentucky, which is pretty cool. JessiKay, tell us a little bit about you. Where'd you get started? And tell us a little about what your business right now.
Okay, so I'm JessiKay. I've been called JessiKay for 10 years. My birth name is Jessica, but my art name is JessiKay. And I've been doing henna since May of 2014. I picked it up at Barnes & Noble. I just thought it was something neat because I always did art. I love to do portraits and paintings and murals and things. And so I was like, oh, I can do that. And I couldn't. It took me so I had a kit with like a stencil and a pen, but in the back it came with the ingredients list. And I was like, oh, okay, you make it. That makes sense. And I tried to, and I bought powder off Amazon, and it was just a big soupy mess. And I was just like frustrated. So I was watching YouTube videos and Instagram, but I pretty much self-taught myself for 2 years. But I gave up mixing for a minute, and I just would buy it from the Indian store thinking, oh, it's safe, it's what they use. And then I got to meet Catherine Lent, who I was like following since day one, because somehow my aunt was her teacher in high school. And so she was like, my aunt saw I was doing henna. She's like, oh, I know someone who does henna. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, look up Catherine Lent. And I like saw that, and I was like, that's my standard. That's what I have to get to. Like, I can't charge until I can do that.
Yeah.
So I didn't charge for years. So I was just like, nope. But then I did a really big festival. It's actually going to be next weekend. It'll be my 4th year. It's still the biggest festival I've ever done. And every year it's close to that amount. But my first year, I didn't know that you could have a booth assistant. I didn't know that you could have a second artist in your booth. I just popped up with the 10 by 10 tent. It actually got destroyed the first day. I had to buy a new one.
Oh my God.
And then I was nonstop drawing for 4 days, and I made $4,000. And I was just like exhausted. And I was just like, how do people do this? And I was following Catherine on Instagram, and she was like posting like smiley pictures at these festivals. And I'm like, how is she happy? Like, I'm confused. Like, I'm so confused. Like, how does she do this? And so I had $4,000, and she had just posted on Instagram she was taking appointments. And I was like, I need to go talk to her. And so I booked an appointment, drove 14 hours, and I'm sitting in front of her just getting my henna done. And she knew my aunt. And so like I had mentioned like 1 or 2 times, like reached out to her and was like, oh, my aunt gave me your name. She's like, that's so great. Good job. Like, good luck on your journey kind of thing. And then, so she knew that my aunt lived nearby, and so she's doing my henna, and she says to the coffee shop owner, she's like, oh yeah, JessiKay is in town, just visiting her aunt and came to get some henna. And I was like, no, I'm here for the henna, but it's just convenient I have a place to sleep tonight. And she was like, you just drove 14 hours for me? And I was just like, yeah. And then like, well, just make sure you're using natural henna. I was like, oh yeah, I get it from the Indian store. She's just like, no, like, don't you know there's like a group on Facebook called Henna Hub where you can ask all these questions and they'll tell you everything you need to know? And I'm like, no. You're making it, And she was just, there's a conference coming up in California called HennaCon, and I teach at that, and so you can go to that. And I'm like, oh, like, I didn't know there was a community or anything. Like, I just was winging it, so then she was really nice and gave me like all the info that I needed for that. And so I went to HennaCon and I met tons of people, but on my way out, I drove from Kentucky to California, and I would stop along the way and I would like take pictures, and I have a huge teddy bear that I take with me everywhere. And so I was like posing him at these places because I was like, oh, I don't want to take selfies everywhere I go and just be like tons of selfies. But then if I take a picture of the monument that I'm at, I'm like, I could get a postcard with a better picture than that. Like, I don't I'm not a photographer. So like, what's the point of even taking pictures? So I was like, well, if I have a prop, like a cute thing. So I had my massive teddy bear as my mascot as I went. And so people started to recognize that. And then I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to this henna conference. And so I was able to like just meet people on the road, just saying, oh, I'm doing henna. We're like, well, and so they would say, well, if you're coming back again, let us know and we'll host you and we can do like a henna night. And so like, it was from then on that I just started to, when I travel, I would just like write people ahead of time, like, hey, I'm coming through again. Do you want to do a henna night? And so I would post like for a few weeks in advance, like, get an interest, make an event page or something. And then when I'd show up, like people were waiting for henna. And so that's kind of how I do my travel henna. Um,
Wow.
so
Wow.
henna 2016. So 2016 on to now, I travel a lot. I live in Kentucky, but like last year, I actually lived in New Jersey for a little bit. I just move around because I can. Um, but but I travel so much that it's like it doesn't really matter where I'm at because like if you want me there, I mean, there's a price for it, but I'll be there. And a lot of times I broke even, learning curve kind of thing. Like I wouldn't get deposits, or I would like just hope that it would be a festival. I'd pay the deposit and then I'd get out there and it'd rain. And then I'd just sit in the rain and I'd be like, I just spent more than I made, to get
Oh,
here. Now I got to go home and lesson learned, kind of thing. But now I'm trying to stay in Louisville and really build my brand locally and then move from there because I hide a signature diamond in all my designs. And so like when people see it, they're just like, they see my henna, they're like, "Ooh, who did that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I did." And they're like, "Oh, you're JessiKay." And I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, or they look like after they get my henna once, then they're looking for their friend's henna, like looking in it like, does it have a diamond? Jessie did it. Like they know that I did it. And then, or if they don't see it, they're like, you didn't go to Jessie. And I'm just like, I don't care if they go to other people, but as long as they're using natural, like that's the most important thing, you
yeah.
know? But in my community right now, it's not as saturated as it is in like Chicago and New Jersey and New York and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's been kind of nice. Like don't have to like haggle prices too much or anything like that. So
Hmm. So you literally
happy
like
for it. And I
you you go to Barnes and Noble and find a henna kit, and it sets off this like chain of events that takes you literally across the country, not once, twice, but like builds a trend of traveling across the country and just doing henna as you go.
Mhm.
I love this. I love it so much. How, like, for you, how does that feel? Like, I feel like a lot of people, I don't want to say it's abnormal, but it's unusual. Like, it's unusual to be able to have someone who's able to just pick up and go and like live their art. And I freaking love it. How does
Yeah,
that feel to you?
I mean, it's still kind of surreal because like I've worked many, many jobs. Like before I worked like for myself, like I've always had 2 or 3 jobs. I worked as a waitress, and then at night I would do overnight stocking at a shop, like stocking shelves overnight. And like I actually bought my car, and on like I was saving up for it, and the song "No Sleep Till Brooklyn" came on all the time, Beastie Boys, and so I was just like, that's it. When I buy my car, its name is Brooklyn because like I don't get sleep, like no sleep till Brooklyn. And so like I bought my car and I named it. But just like I've always worked a lot like for other people, but then now that I work for myself and I wake up at like 11 o'clock and I'm just like just roll out of bed. I'm like, oh, what do I have to do today? And I'm just like, but I also stay up till 4 a.m. because my best art time comes at like 2 a.m. And,
Hmm.
you know, it goes back, like every each goes where I want it to at 2 a.m. So then I sleep in. So it's nice. But I wake up every day very grateful. Like I'm just like, I get to do henna today. I and I get paid for it. Like, cool. Like, that's a bonus. Like, I can still pay my bills, but I get to wake up and just do what I want to do. Like, um, so yeah, sometimes I'm like, somebody will ask me, like, so do you do this full time? And I'm like, yeah. And they're just like, that's cool. And I'm like, is it? Oh, I guess it is. Yeah, it is cool, isn't it? Like, I just like forget kind of. I'm just like, I mean, it's so normal now. It's been 3 years. So I'm just like, yeah, why? Like, what? They're just like, but so you don't do anything else. You just do art. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. And
I
they're just,
love it. I love it. But it's true. You know, I feel like many times when you walk into a space and you're like, oh yeah, like everyone's, you know, introducing themselves and all formal and what do you do? And what do you do? And when you say you're an artist, they're like, yeah, but what do you do? It's like, I'm
yeah,
an artist. Like that's what
yeah,
that is.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. So like for you, because this took on then quite quickly. I mean, you had 2 years where you just start serving people, but you're not charging, and you're just
right,
like trying to meet a personal goal of getting clean lines, getting like feeling like you were up to par, right? So
yeah,
then you go
yeah.
into year 3 and you take this thing on as a business. Between then and now, like, can you tell me about like some of your personal growth in during that process? I feel like that had to have been a stretch.
The biggest personal goal for me was talking. I was homeschooled through high school. I was well, I am an introvert like crazy, but I had to push myself to be able to do it full time. If I wanted to continue to do art, I had to talk to people.
Hmm.
And like when I got to college, because I only went to college for a year, I couldn't afford to do school and work full time. I'm one of 8 kids. I'm third eldest, so she still had 5 at home, like, when I moved out, so there's no way I could just, like, run back home, like, I had to take care of myself, so I was just like, "Well, how can I go to school and work full time?" Like, I had scholarships and grants and things, so it wasn't that I couldn't afford school, it was I couldn't afford to live while going to school. So it was
Hmm.
like, "Nah, go to school and starve or go to work and support myself." So I took work instead, so I had 2, 3 jobs at a time. But when I got to college, yeah, I was like, oh crap, I have to talk to people. Oh man, like I was so lucky I could just sit in my room and draw all day and not have to be bothered. I just took care of my siblings and then that was it. Like I probably sometimes didn't see people for 2 weeks. Like we just didn't go out much. We lived in Kentucky, like in the hills kind of. So if we needed to go to town, it was like a 45-minute drive. So we were just like, we just stayed home and hung out with each other,
Yeah.
and sometimes we didn't get along. So I wouldn't talk to anyone for 2 weeks, So I was just like, crap. So now, like doing festivals and things, I push myself. But even in the grocery store, when somebody goes, "Oh, I love your henna," I'm like, "Oh, here's my card," and then I just like kind of start talking. And uh, but 4 years ago, that wouldn't have been me. Like I wouldn't be like I shut down. Like when people talk to me, I would just be like, how about that weather? Like I don't know. I still am not good with small talk at booths when I'm working. Like I need to be focused on work, like drawing to make sure it's perfect, you know. And I'll try and like start the conversation because I want to avoid the monotonous how'd you get started in this? And then I have to go on autopilot kind of just, well, I started at this and then just like keep the same storyline, and I'm just like, I don't want to talk about me. What about you? But I don't know what questions to ask. So I
Yeah.
really lucked out with my sister is an amazing people person. So she's my booth assistant next weekend at the big festival that I do. It's a big Beatles festival. It's like all Beatles themed. Called Ad River, and it's just huge, like Beatles festival that uh, international bands come and play their music and stuff. And So my sister is a huge Beatles fan, so she's like, yes, I get to work this. And then she'll get their payment, and if there's nobody else in line, she'll like whip around after she's done taking their payment and sets them down with me, and I start drawing, and then she's like, so are you going to school? Oh, that's so interesting, and blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, yes, you talk to them, you give them that great experience of the questions and being personal. I'll listen and I'll remember, and then the next year they come to the booth, I'm like, hey Karen, it's you, like, oh, are you still going to school, and then I can kind of build on it. Like, I remember things, but it's starting that like conversation is really hard for me, but I'm working on it. I'm working because I'm learning from her. But yeah, so growth would be being able to talk to people and like be like my brand and be a person, um like, and be kind of seen in the community. I don't know, like, what was the other question?
Just that, I feel like just that piece on personal growth, I feel like that's huge. I know for me, because I'm an introvert, but I've always been in like places of leadership. And so knowing how to communicate, like, this is what I need, or this is what I need from you, or this is what you need from me, like those sorts of conversations
Mhm.
never made me uncomfortable. But I'm with you in the piece of, I don't like the small talk. Like,
Yeah.
that's really hard for me. And having that kind of be a part of what we have to do to hear your background, which I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that you were homeschooled and we're like one of 8. I'm one of 7, by the way. So shout out to the big families. But it's
Well, I'm
like,
gonna say biological. I have 4 step siblings as well, so I'm one of 12 if you count the whole lineup.
oh my God.
But of the 8, we grew up in a house of like 8 on the weekdays, 10 on the weekends. I was one of the head chefs of the house. So once you're down, I'm like, cool, I don't have to cook anymore. Good. Like,
Oh my God.
how to, but I don't need to. So if, and like, I just like sporadically just want to make some big thing and cool, but usually it's just microwave stuff. I don't care. Like, fast food is cheaper for me because the produce doesn't go bad. There's you, it's fine, but whatever.
I
But
can
I go
see that though. Like, I can see that I don't want to say, well, it's growth. That growth, how that growth would have to, that's, I can imagine like growing pains in that space, and like the communicating and the getting out and being present and like being out there. And it's funny to me, I never, so like as another kind of professional, right? I see you and I would never have that perception. Like, I see you chatting and like you're in there and you like, everybody knows JessiKay. And yeah, look, you're
it's
like
weird.
cringing.
It's weird. It's like I grew up homeschooled, one thing, and then went to church and we do like this church plays and stuff. Well, I was always the light person. I'm like, don't put me on that stage. Like, I don't want people to look at me. Like, I'll put the light on you. Like, I always want to showcase other people,
Mm-hmm.
And so like with henna, like I'm making them feel prettier. Like, they're already pretty, but if they have that accent, like I'm doing their nails or something, it's like just an additional thing that I'm just like, oh, everybody's gonna love you. Like, it's more I'm trying to add for them,
Mm-hmm.
but then it just kind of like, now people know who I am, and I'm like, this is cool, but at the same time, it's like kind of creepy. Like, I went to Atlanta and I did Dragon Con, and I did someone's henna, and she went to go like open a door, and somebody else saw her hand, was like, the diamond, where is she? And she like went running for me. Like, I was just like, oh, you knew who I was in Atlanta. And now she follows me, and she's on the henna group and stuff like that. So she knew the henna community. It was still neat. Like, it was just, from the online. And then she like stood in line for like 45 minutes and was just like telling everybody like, she's going to put a diamond in her design, and like telling about me while I'm doing henna. And I'm just like listening to my story as she's standing there. And I'm just like, okay. Like, cool, but at the same time, I'm like, but I'm just me. I'm just Jessie. Like, I'm just having fun, just
Yeah.
doing my job, doing my life. Like,
Though,
but
I feel like I feel like it's not by chance though, because you said something there that was really interesting. You said, I want to put the spotlight on them and I want to make them feel prettier. They already are. I want them to be more, to feel that way more. I want to accent them. And it comes down to you wanting to serve. And like one of the things that I know, like that's huge for me is, yeah, we get to do this art and it's amazing. And yeah, we get to get paid for it. And that's great too. But
Mhm.
like, you won't be successful if you're not coming from a place of serving other people. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't surprise me at all that you have, yeah, that you have like the recognition that you have, and that you have um the legitimacy, I think, that you have. I don't think that's by chance. I think that was built from just your perspective of
Yeah.
wanting to serve, wanting to serve your clients.
Yeah, it is frustrating sometimes though when like I get emails or messages like in my instant messenger or whatever, where they're just like, how do I get, you know, how do you get so many followers? And I'm like, I've been around a while. Like I really have been. Like I mean, I'm not like it's not been like 10 years, but like for me, I mean, like because it's my full time, I feel like I've had a lot of like I'm spoiled and like I can grow a lot faster because I just have all the time to work on it. Whereas most people who've been doing it 12 years and then they're like, well, why does my stuff not look as good as hers or something? And I'm like, well, do you do it every day? And there was like, well, no. And I'm like, I do it every day. I said the longest I've been without doing henna on skin in the last 4 years in consecutiveness was like 4 days when I was like really sick. And like other than that, like either I'm drawing on me, I'm drawing on someone else, like it's a daily thing. And so I feel like I progressed a lot faster because I gave myself the time to practice all the time. And so like, and with like social media, like I feel like I'm bothering people when I post like 2 or 3 posts a day kind of thing. But then at the same time, like, but it's my like I don't like this is what I want to do. This is what I love. I'm just posting what I love. And if they want something cool, if not, oh well, but like they just want the instant gratification of, oh, you've only been doing this 3 years and you're already at this point. And I'm like, yeah, but 3 years of full time. Like you're working another job and you're just wanting to do this as a hobby. And then you're just now trying to get into like getting people to pay you. But you don't understand, like for 3 years, I was doing it every day. You're doing it like once a week or just like barely, but you still want that. Well, I've been doing it now for 2 years and I'm not at the same level. And I'm like, but you're not doing it 2 years full time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like,
I think,
kind of.
yeah, I feel like you I think that your story is so unique and interesting because you went in and you went like all in. Like I've never, like, you're at every conference. You're at every conference, like you're constantly learning, you're constantly working with clients or working on yourself. And I'm like, and just from like a content perspective, hello, if you're doing all of those things, then you are producing content that you can share on social. It makes sense that your social is growing. Like, but all of that's not without sacrifice. So like, what's the biggest sacrifice that you found in growing your business over the past 3 years? Almost 4 years.
Um, Probably with all the travel. I mean, as much as I have awesome henna friends and family, I feel like I'm still an acquaintance. I don't have any like true like best friend
Yeah.
anywhere. Like I have a lot of good friends, but it's just like but I come and go and so they like love to see me and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, where are you at now?" And then I'm like, "Oh, no, what about you? Please like let's not talk about me." Like I don't know, I'm going to Florida this week and then I'm going to Virginia next week and then I'm going to Pennsylvania this week. And then I'm just like, "So what about you?" And they're just like, "Uh, I'm going to go to my 9 to 5."
I gotta go work. Yeah.
do? You know, like, and I'm just like, no, like, what's going on with your kids? You know, and I try, but then I suck at social, like, small talk anyway. So I'm just like, what do I ask him? What do I ask him? But I just don't want to talk about me. You know, like, can we go back to you? Like, but then I'm like, crap, I suck at small talk. Like, what do we talk about? And then I'm just like, okay, well, see you in a few weeks when I come back from all my travels, you know. And then they're just like, where are you at now? You know, I'm just like, yeah. So like sacrifice on like friendship levels. And that's another reason I'm trying to stay more local and build like, I have clientele that, oh my gosh, I have 3 repeat customers right now that I couldn't say like I have a top customer, like client, but those 3, like the henna's not even fully faded yet. And they're just like, I need something new. And I trust you to do whatever. And I've been telling everybody about you. And I passed out your card to like this person and this person, this person. And we're going to do a party next week. And I've got my friends coming over. And I'm just like, okay, you know, but I've got like 3 that are like that right now. And it's so nice. And like, I sell my t-shirts. And so my one friend, as soon as I come out with a new design, she's like, I need it right now. Like, get me a large, like whatever. And I think I'll buy one for my daughter. And I think I'll buy one for my friend, you know, and then just like, they're always like supporting me and it's awesome. And
Yeah.
so, but then there's like, but are they my friend or are they my client? Like they're both, but like, but they still have their friends, you know, and I don't know. It's just like the sacrifice is more of a, it's fun, but it's like at the end of the day, I have a teddy bear to go home to. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I would like to have like date sometimes, but I'm just like, when do I have time for that? And like I'm willing to work around their schedule because I have all the time. Like, oh, I can make my schedule. So if we want to go out at this time, I can block that time off. No big deal. I don't have to go to a boss and be like, hey, I need this time off. You know, like
Right.
I have that, but it kind of intimidates a lot of people when, and so I'm just like, I don't know. So it's cool to see all my friends, but at the same time, I'm like, I wish I could have like a solid person to go to, even if it's just a friend, not a dating situation. But like, I don't know. It's a little lonely, I guess. That's the word. Yeah, lonely.
Yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine. I think I think that I share your experience in that. So I went full time in 2014. I've been working with Henna since 2011. I went full time in 2014, and over the course of these years, I've taken my business over 3 states, and it's
You're in Texas, and then
yeah. I started in Nebraska,
oh,
and then Texas, and then Maryland, and even in Maryland, I moved. So it's like you when you get up and go, and I only know it from this perspective. Like aside from that, like I grew up military and whatnot, so we move like every year or so. So I get it in that sense. It's like you get up and go, and there's freedom in that. Like there's a lot of liberty in that. There's a lot of
mhm.
there's not you don't feel limited, and you become very like independent, and you can do the
Everybody goes,
things.
oh, you're a gypsy. It's so romantic, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's very
yeah,
romanticized. But I think that you do like every time you move and every time you go to a new space, it can be it can be lonely. It can be humbling. It can be really sad. Like for in my experience, it can be really sad to see this person that like, yeah, that's my acquaintance, client, friend. And at the
mhm.
same time, like, but they have a life and I'm here to service them and then like to sometimes talk outside of that. And it's just it can be really it's a strange dynamic,
Yeah, and a
you
lot of
know?
times, like, it's kind of a bummer, like, I'll go to the beach or something, like, I'm working in Florida, and I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna go to the beach and, like, hang out on, like, take in the sun," but then I get there and I'm just like, I have no one to talk to, and I just, like, stare at this ocean, I'm just like, "I'm so tiny. I'm
Wow.
so tiny in this world." You know, like, I get but the cool thing is too, like, working at festivals, like, if someone walks into my booth and says, "Oh, I've had henna in Chicago," and I'm like, oh, who did it? You know, and they're just like, Kendra Williams. I'm like, I know her. And they're just like, okay. And I'm just like, yeah, well, I travel a lot, you know, and so I know so many people. And I'm like, the world gets so tiny at festivals to me. Like, I can meet people all over. and or they recognize me and they're like, I thought I saw you in Philadelphia. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Philly actually, but I worked a festival in Philly, and they're just like, yeah, I was there that weekend, but you're here now in Florida. And I'm like, yeah, but I just travel. And so it's just like really small world, small world, small world. And then I go and when I'm driving, I'll stop at a rest stop and I'll just like look at a mountain and I'm just like, I'm so tiny. like, like I get like weird, like gotta balance it out. Like at first it's just like, the world's so small, like I know everyone. Like it's weird. It's like, no, I don't. Like, no, I don't. You're a
Oh,
green hand. Like, what? Like, so it's like a weird dynamic of like meeting people and then going out in nature and being like, no, like calm down. Like there's still so much more to do. So
can I tell you, I think I love what you just said. I feel like, and this is purely my perception of you, right? But I feel like you showed up in the henna world and you immediately started putting work in and you became very accomplished very fast. And in other circumstances where you see people have like walked that same journey, you get to a place, or you see them get to a place where the ego inflates and the nose kind of raises, and it's just that person, normally they disappear. Normally they disappear because the community kind of just turns an eye and is like, this is not like, don't want to deal with this person, don't want to deal with this personality. And
mhm.
you have not been that person. Like you, and yeah, and I love that. I love that
Well,
about you. Like I see, no, for real. Like, and that's just real talk. I feel like within the henna community, because it is so tight knit, like we know one another, like we see each other's work even, and we're like, yeah, so and so did that, you know. And so to to have a henna artist
mhm.
like yourself who came
Yeah,
up,
somebody and if that's yours.
yeah, it's like, you know, you come up and you came so quickly, but you kept that humility about you. And I really love that. Like I have so much respect for that. And so to hear you say like, oh, you know, I'm working these festivals all over and, you know, the world seems really small and it's, you know, there's like people fangirling about me in the lobby, but at the same time, like I'm so small. Like, you know, I'm like a speck of sand is what you say. I'm like a speck of sand here. And it's like, that is that, does that sort of maintaining that balance between the hype and the like being grounded, is that a part of like a daily personal practice that you have, or has that just
Kind
always been you?
It's kind of always been me. I've never wanted to deceive people. Like I always want to be as honest as possible, like because I was raised Christian, and like I don't know, like we learned like my mom taught us like vanity is a sin and stuff like that. So like it took me like till I was 19 to even wear makeup, like because I was just like, oh no, I don't want to trick people. Like this is me, and if that's what you see, that's what you see. But then I was like, no, but makeup can just accentuate things. Like you don't have to like cover your features. It's making them pop. So when I do my swirls and stuff like that, just pops my eyes, but it doesn't take away from me. I had to like learn that kind of like there's a balance
Hmm.
of you can do these things without feeling guilty, kind of. And so but then at the same time, like I've never wanted to be like fake to people. And like I really struggle with it sometimes because like I want to say something on a post, but I'm like, oh no, but then they'll think I'm mean.
Hmm.
But I'm just trying to be honest. Like that's really so you do the whole sandwich effect, or like a compliment on, and then you tell them what you mean, and then compliment again. And I'm just like, it's such a process. But and then is that fake? Is that fake? Like, why can't I just say what I want? And then when I finally lose it one day, everybody's gonna be like, oh my gosh, she was never really a nice person, But I'm so worried about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I actually say how I feel, like should I just slowly say how I feel, like when it comes and arises, or do I hold it all back and then one day just explode and then everybody's like, she was faking the whole time, or
No.
something like that? So I'm so self conscious on that. Like, I don't want to like. I don't know. My siblings, like, so I'm one of 8, and my youngest sister is 9, and then my sister that's like the closest with me, I was 15 when she was born, and my mom had a small stroke after
Mm.
she had her, and so like I became mom to a newborn because she couldn't take care of her at her top peak ability. Like I have other sisters that are a year younger and a year older, and they sometimes would step in, but for the most part, like I was like mom to the newborn. So like I have a connection with her kind of. So she's 13 now. So like I don't want her to see me fail is kind of
Mm.
what I'm getting at, is like my siblings are like younger than me, and like my family has kind of put me on a pedestal, and I'm like, oh crap, I can't fall off. Like if I fall off, like they always have said it out loud. They're just like, oh, if Jessie can't do it, I definitely can't do it. And I'm like, no, like you can still do it. Don't not attempt things. And then if I fail, don't think that you're gonna fail. Like everybody fails. Like that's not fair. Like, oh
Yeah.
crap. Like I gotta be perfect all the time. And I'm just like, no, like people fail. But if I fail, I usually don't voice it to them. Or I kind of like try and be at the lowest, like dramatic thing about it. I'm just like, yeah, so went to this festival. I spent like $300 to get there, and I ended up like making 100. But it's fine. Like my car payment can be a few days late, but it's fine. It's fine. Like so, I'll
Yeah.
just be like, oh yeah, it was a bad weekend, but I'll make it up. It's fine. It's cool. You know. And they're just like, oh, that stinks, but you're fine. And I'm like, yep, I'm fine. And they're just like, cool. And then they just move on, and they're just like, well, Jessie's always got it under control. And I'm just like freaking out inside. I'm just like, how am I gonna do this? So then I make a post like, hey, a 2-hour party for 150. First come, first serve, you know, and somebody will write me, and I'm just like, oh, thank God. You know, I'm just like, oh, I'm fine, you know?
Yeah.
And like I'll think like maybe I should get a second job, maybe I should go back to work, but then I'm like, well, I'm only have a dry spell for this like 2-week period, and then I've got like 3 parties booked then that next week I've got like 4 things coming on where I've got their half down deposit, but then I'm coming to that other half deposit, and I'm like, oh well, I'll have plenty of money in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I can't get another job and then be like, oh, I just need you for this time, and then I've got stuff to do. I'm my own boss, and you know, like I can't just get another part time and be like, well, this is my schedule and it's really sporadic. Um, and if somebody books me tomorrow, like I'm not gonna come in for a $8 an hour shift if I can make $100 an hour doing that. You know, like I only have
Mhm.
to be there for 2 hours and I'll make 200, whereas I've just worked a whole week for the same.
For
Like
the same.
it's really hard, like to go back to an hourly kind of job when I'm just like, but I charge 100 an hour, you know. But then they're like, you make 100 an hour, and I'm like, but not 40 hours a week, you know.
Right.
Like I'm like, I just worked 90 hours on my marketing and my practice, and you know, getting prepped for the parties. Like it takes, you know, you got to make the henna, you got to cone it, and so those things come into account that they don't see. I'm just like, yeah, you're also, that hourly is also paying for my time to prep, and
Mhm.
people don't see that. They're just like $100 an hour. And I'm just like,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
real. That's real. That's look, I feel like a lot of times people do artists too, which is really funny to me. I'm like, it could be the artist or it can be from the client side. They're like, "Oh, that's so expensive." Like, "Oh, you're making that much? Wow, you're making that much." And they fail to notice all of those things that are going on in the back end. So
Yeah.
you said, you've got parties. What does what type of clients do you typically serve? Because I know you do festivals like when you're traveling around, but when you're at home, what's that look like?
Well, I'm trying to get away from festivals. I was really trying to say like I'm only doing 4 festivals this year, but then bills came up, and I was just like, oh, it's only $100 to sign up for that one. I'll take it on. I'll see how
Yeah.
it goes. But my ideal clients are right now. Most of mine are personal appointments during the week. I do coffee shop meetups. I have a few storefronts like galleries and places on like main stretches with a lot of walk through, like um, high foot traffic. They have really big, beautiful windows that they just let me set up my little booth in front of for free. So I can just pop up on a nice day and just be like, oh, it's air conditioned. I can sit in the front window so people can see what I'm doing, but I'm not uncomfortable out on the street, like busking kind of. But sometimes it's a nice day and I will sit outside, but they allow me to just come and set up because they're like, you're bringing value to our shop. People want to stop in and watch and then shop around while they're waiting or whatever. Coffee shop meetups, I book the appointment in advance. I try and use my Acuity, but some people are just weird about it. They're just like, well, can't I just pay you this way or that way? And it's just like, yeah, I'm still trying to get a backbone with it a little bit more because then what happened yesterday was I was emailing someone. So I try and do emails now instead of text because I can have it all in one email and like go back to it a lot faster,
Yeah.
and see what we talked about and everything like that. And then I can kind of pull it back on them and be like, well, you said this, if I'm talking on the phone, I can't remember what everything was said. So I have a record of it in email. And she was like, oh, I'm going to be in town this day with my daughter. I want to meet up. And I'm like, okay, well, I have availability from this time to this time. Or I'm also going to be set up at this festival. And I said, appointments are $30 minimum. She's like, oh, but she's only 11. So she's not going to need a big design. And I'm like, tinier hands are not easier.
Yeah.
And the 30 minimum. Sorry, like from ages 7 to 70, it's 30 minimum. Like, that's what it is. So that's on you, if you want to do the 30-minute appointment. But it gives them 30 minutes. And I'm fast because I do the festivals and I do it daily. Like, I end up making my 30-minute appointment draw, talk, draw, talk, so that it draws out that 30 minutes. So they feel like they got an experience with it. And I am more personal with them. But then they get like a full hand design in 30 minutes. And it's like at a festival, that'd be $60, and
Right.
it's getting my go. Like, that was fun. Bye. And so I'm like, when you do the 30-minute appointment, you're really getting more of an experience. It's really nice. And so I'll book the appointment and then I'll meet them, like I'll give them a location to meet at. So if I'm on Wednesdays, I'm always at this one storefront now. And so I'm like, this is the address, meet me here. But then if it's a coffee shop, I'm just like, here's a coffee shop. If there's a closer one to them and it's in the same like 10-mile radius, I'm like, oh, I won't charge you more. We'll just meet there. That's fine. Um, I'll come to them. And then if it's a bigger appointment, like a bigger shoulder piece or like thigh piece or foot piece, I'm like, I'm not doing that in the coffee shop. I'll come to you. You don't have to worry about getting out of your car, getting in your car and smushing anything. Like, you can be relaxed here on home. I just charge $15 extra for house calls unless it's like within reason. Then I'm like maybe $10 more because then it's just like, I'm coming to you. You can. And then they're just like, yeah, sure. So it's not a big deal. So personal appointments, but yeah. So yesterday the email, she was like trying to book the appointment, and I'm like, okay, it's $30. You can do Venmo, you can do PayPal, you can do Cash App, which I'm trying to do more Cash App than Venmo. So that,
Hey.
yeah. So, but yeah, so I'm like Cash App or PayPal, whatever. And then she's like, oh, well, what about the festival? And I said, well, yeah, the festival walk-ups, I start at like $20. And she's like, I'll see you at the festival. And I'm like, I just wasted like 30 minutes of going back and forth with this woman when now maybe she'll show up at the festival. Like,
Yeah.
if I had just directed her to my website and she saw the prices, if she really wanted it, she would click it. And I wouldn't have to do all this conversation back and forth. Like, I wouldn't have to justify, the 30 minutes and waste the time to talk to her. And then it just turns out she's just going to maybe show up at the festival. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not holding my breath anymore. Like, and that's a big thing I had to learn. People get excited about henna and they go, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this huge piece. And I was starting out, I'd be like, yes, yes, okay. Like, that's an $80 design. Like, they're serious. No, like, they're just like, they're excited and maybe they were genuinely wanting it, but they can't afford it right now. But I would need it for bills and I'd just be like, oh my gosh, well, what about Tuesday or what about Thursday? And they're just like, oh, well, I mean, in the future, like for a festival or for like this occasion coming up. And I'm like, so then I'll mark it on my calendar, like, oh, the festival is this weekend. So like, I'm going to make $80 that weekend because she said, and so like now
Oh, that's a
it
lesson.
works out. Yeah. But that was when I was first starting out. So now I'm like, I don't count money till it's in my hand.
Yeah.
like I do not like, as much as, even if I know that they're like well off or whatever, like that doesn't mean that they, like I can't expect that to work out. Like, just don't count anything till it's in your hand, like, because things happen, and so I can't be like, oh, in 2 weeks I'm going to make $500 unless there's a contract. And
Yeah.
then that could really be happening. But like, if somebody just says, I'm going to hire you, I'm going to call you in 2 weeks to do this big thing, I'm just like, cool. I'll believe it when I see it. Like, I'm not gonna try and spend the money before I have it, kind of thing. Because sometimes I'm like, I need to book like for a festival, and the deadline to book, like to get your fee in, is on the 15th, and I'm like, okay, well they said they were going to book me on the 12th, so that money can be for that, and so I won't put the booth fee down, and then it doesn't work out on the 12th, and I'm like, crap, I have 3 days of fee. I didn't put it in my budget. I'm like, crap, no, like you gotta stop doing that. You gotta stop promising yourself money there. So that was a big learning curve for me.
I want to ask, like, do you find, and I know that like now you're relearning your home space, right? Like you're rebuilding now just where you are. Are you finding that you're doing more parties or more of the private appointments there? Like if you had to split it up, which would you say you're doing more of right now?
Um, the cool thing is, a lot of my private appointments have been turning into parties, because like they're just like so into it. They're like, oh my gosh, my friend would love this. Like, do you do parties? And I'm just like, yes. And then I love when they try and go, you know what you should do? You should do parties. And I'm like, I do. And they're just like, well, you should charge each person like $20, and I could get like 10 people easy. And I'm like, or or we could do what I already have in place. I'm like, it's an hourly rate, the host pays me, you can collect money from your friends, but you're paying me before services start, and then if somebody gets more or something, they can pay more, or whatever. However you want to get the money from them, it's fine. But I'm not chasing your friends around all night or waiting for them to sit down, and then they get in their conversations and they go, oh, I forgot. Oh, I gotta go now. I'll get it next time. And I've just sat there for 4 hours and made maybe $120, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not cool, And so like, I'm just like, you pay me, they pay you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna do it that way. That's I can do for you, because I'm sorry, but it is my time and it is my pace, and this is how it's got to go. And they're just like, oh, that makes sense, okay. But like, one of my, like, the three regulars that I have, there's one girl, Amanda. She has been my regular for over like almost 3 years now. um she usually gets it, like, she doesn't get it like constantly, like as soon as it's gone she gets another one, but she always gets matching hands. Well, she says sisters, not twins. She doesn't mind if it's different, but sometimes I like to challenge myself and do matching. But like, um that's just kind of her thing. Like, she knows that that's going to be something she does for her birthday and for like certain things, and she'll come and find me at festivals. Sometimes she'll just put her hand down, like, hey, you're here, cool. um but then, uh with the private part, turning it into private parties after an individual appointment, this woman wrote me and she was like, I want to try out your henna, I want to see if it's a good stain, and like, I've had henna before in Mexico and it was black, and I'm like, that wasn't real henna,
Oh.
and she's just like, oh. And then I'm like, oh, well, like, we'll try out my henna and see how you like it. And so she did a foot design and we had a fun time, we were talking and everything. She was just like, um 2 days later she wrote me, she's like, I need a thigh piece. This is like, this is so gorgeous, but it's not big enough. Like, she's like, I want more. And so
I
like, she
love
booked it
it.
bigger with me. And then as we're sitting there, she's like, do you do parties? And I'm just like, yeah. And so that was one of those where I was just like, she was like, well, I could get my friends to pay you, like, and I'm like, no, no, you pay me and then they pay you. And she's just like, oh, okay. So I just did a party with her like last weekend and it was hilarious. And the problem sometimes though is I still don't have a good like uh like I have a display book where I'll give them like the options that I can do in an hour and I'm like, okay, if everybody gets this size, we're not going to go overtime. But if you want extra, just know that it might start to accumulate more time. And because we were having such a fun time, like she paid for 2 hours, I ended up staying 3. And like some people tipped me, but it wasn't my full amount of the hourly, like it wasn't really, I didn't get the extra 100 that I should have had from it. But it was a fun time. And I was like, whatever, like, but how do I say next time? If that happens, really, I'm kind of letting it slide this time. And then her friends are seeing that I went overtime. Did
Mm.
she tell them what she paid? Because I don't want them to hire me and then go, oh, well, she's going to go overtime and not charge us. Like, I don't know how to, like, nicely say, like, as much as I enjoyed that, that was a lot of fun. Don't expect that every time. I don't know how to like address that because they were like a lot of them were like, oh, my daughter's birthday's coming up, we're gonna hire you, and I'm just like, cool, I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing. But how do I say, by the way, I'm 100 an hour, and even though we went over, don't try to do that too, because another problem was is that they saw the book designs and they were like, oh, those are pretty, but like, can you do this shoulder piece? And then they were like, poof, like, can you do this
Mm.
shoulder piece? And I'm like, that's a full sleeve, like, or that half sleeve. It's going to take
Yeah.
me like 30 minutes just for you. And you're paying your friend $20. Like, it's an $80 design. That's a $90 design. Like, and at a festival, it's 120. Like, and I just went overtime too, doing these bigger pieces. And I'm like, do I need to like just let it go? Because it's like I'm enjoying myself, but I don't know how that would go for future events. Like,
Is it in
I
your
want my,
contract? Like, is it in your contract that additional time is at a certain dollar amount?
yeah, it is. It is. And so like we did a contract, but like it started to go over time and I'm like, ah, like I'm having
Uh,
fun.
yeah,
Like, no big deal. I guess, yeah, I guess if I did send them a contract, it does say that.
yeah.
But then I don't want to be like, I just want you for your money. Like, because
Ah,
like we did have a fun time, but I don't want to be like, but, like we aren't best friends. Like, this
yeah.
is my job. Like, this is my pay, like to get, bills paid. But if I'm already there and I just made, certain amount, like, am I being stingy? I don't know.
Oh,
Like,
no, you deserve to be compensated for your service, of course.
uh,
Like, I don't know, like for me, my thing is if I once I see that I'm reaching like that, like 15 minutes before I'm supposed to go, if I
yeah,
see that we still have people and there's like still plenty of interest, then at that point I just like pull the hostess aside and I'll send someone, hey, can someone grab so and so? And when she comes over, then I just kind of whisper in her ear, hey, I know that we're about to reach 7 o'clock, but it looks like you got a couple of guests who still are wanting henna. Do you want me to stay for an additional hour? And if so, do you want a cash app? Do you want to? And I just like ask it like that. So it's not even a question. It's like, if you want me, here's your options. You can cash app, you can card, you can cash in my bag. I don't care. But if you want me to stay, and that gives them a chance also to like, okay. And they've got 15 minutes to think about it. Think about it,
yeah.
figure it out.
So like at like corporate events, I'm like, this is business. Like, this
Yeah.
is fine. Like, I don't feel so weird about it. I'll like see like if I'm doing like a college event and there's still a huge line, because always the last to leave.
Yeah.
So then I'm just like, hey, um, here's a signage, like the next 5 people, and then that's it. Unless you're cool with me staying and you want to continue, like, do you want to add an additional hour, half hour, or something? And usually it's not too big of a deal, and I don't feel as guilty about it. But like when I'm at parties where like I am goofing off with them, and I'm just like, did I joke too long? Was I sitting there not doing art? so should I like take away some design time for that or something like that? I'm just like, but
Oh
no,
no.
I'm always like doing the designs, but like I don't know.
Yeah. No, I feel like it's
I'm just
part of
like,
the
did I?
experience.
Yeah, I think yeah. It's just it's gotten worse. That's the thing. Is like at first I was
Ah,
more like pull the host aside and be like, hey, just so you know, it's getting to that time. But now it's like I just keep letting it go, and then I'm like, oh crap, Jess, like pull it in, like which is a really great feeling. Is like I'm not a starving artist. Like I can't stand that mentality that other artists have, and they go, oh, because we're all starving artists. I'm like, no, no,
you might
no.
be, but I'm
I'm
not.
like, we're not. I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, you can't keep living in that style of, like, feel bad for me because I'm a full time artist. Like, this is my life. Like, I want to be free, but I want everything to be free because I'm doing this. Like, it's
Yeah.
like they expect people to just go, oh, well, you're struggling. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
The
no,
beautiful struggle at that.
like, that's not how I want people to. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't want people to see me as, when they come in my booth and, oh, what do you do? Like, no, this is my full time. They're like, oh, like, really? And I'm just like, yeah. And they're just like, just baffled. I'm like, yeah, I own my business. I have 2 cars. I travel all over and hopefully soon I want to be a pilot. I want to have my own personal jet so
Ah,
that can in 5 years possibly change my business dynamic to henna on the fly and be able to go to parties and do an event in Florida and then later that day be in Colorado, like, and I fly myself, like that'd be cool.
that
Um,
is
that's just
cool.
I've always wanted to be a pilot for 12. My first career choice when I was 12 was to be a pilot, and people were like, why? And I'm like, because we grew up super poor. Like, we used to have to choose between water and electric. Like, I mean, it wouldn't go the whole month without water, but it was like waiting for the next paycheck. Like, it's like, do you want water or do you want electric? And we'd always pick electric. And then we would take water from the creek or the spring and we'd heat it up on the stove and just like make it work. So I was just like, I have to get a career where I don't have to struggle. Like,
Yeah.
I need to be like, I don't want to live this life when I grow up. And that's why I don't have kids and I don't want kids. If I ever have kids, they'll be adopted. There's no point in bringing more kids into this world when there's kids that need a home. But until I can afford them, I don't want them. Like, I don't want to struggle with them and be like, this is how I grew up too. Like, so um, when I looked at income, pilot was like at the top. And I was just like, that's what I'm doing. But then I was like, no, that's actually a really cool career too. Like, I would love to fly planes. So it was just like a bonus kind of thing. And I was just like, in my head, I was just like, that's what I got to do to make money.
That is
Kind
so
of. But
cool.
now it's more established. So doing personal events and parties is what I want to do more. I really love to do more bridal. The struggles I've seen is the hourly. I charge $100 an hour, and I've actually thought about going up to $120 because I do have a kind of demand in the city. Like, there isn't much of us, and sometimes like it's a really busy weekend. Like, I could charge $120, for that amount of, and I'm always getting faster, so I'm doing more in that volume of time, and for bridal, like, I think I should bump it up to 120. But then I have another artist that is just as talented as me with like skill wise and like detail and everything. She's charging $65 an hour, and then she'll get hired for the bridal, but then she'll tell them, oh, I'm too busy for the Sangeet or whatever, like for the bridal party. Here's JessiKay, she does it too, and she's really fast, she's really good, and so she'll like try and pass on the business to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, no problem, I'm $100 an hour. And they're like, what? Like, I'm paying $65 for my bridal, I'm not gonna pay $100 for my guests, and I'm like, well, that's my prices. Like, I'm like, so then I'll say, well, if you want to pay it in full, I'll do 10% off today. But after that, it's back to my normal rate. Sorry, like, that's just my time. I'm not going to lower it just because you got an amazing deal on her. Like, be grateful you got that discount with her.
Yeah.
And use that difference to pay me. The problem is that she lowered her rates because she's a lot slower. And she feels like the design that they're showing her is going to take her 6 hours. She doesn't want to say it's $600 when I could do that design in 3 hours for 300. She's doing it in 6 hours for 65 an hour. Are they really getting a discount? They're not.
No.
And they're going to spend all day, miserable. Like, after that certain point, they're just like, I want to get up,
Yeah.
And so are they really getting a discount? But they just see money, like numbers.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, 65 an hour, that's great. But you're going to sit there all day.
Yeah.
Or you could pay 100 an hour and you'll be done in 4 hours. Like, what do you want? Like, so people don't see that part of it, and it's been really frustrating lately. I've had to explain that to a lot of people, and I don't like having to justify my prices.
Yeah.
And I've tried to talk to the artist, and she's just like, this is just where I feel comfortable in life. That's just my prices. And I'm just like,
No, you gotta do what's good for you.
like,
That's the bottom line.
it just bummed me out because I know she's worth more. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, your stuff is so good. Like, I would pay you 100 an hour to do your henna. And she's just like, yeah, but, and she's in a Pakistani community. She does get hired a lot, and those are the prices they're used to her doing.
Yeah.
So if she raises them now, they'll be like, why are you doing this to me? Like that, kind of thing. So it's hard for her, and I see that, for her to break that mold of the expectation and everything. But at the same time, like, you're undercutting us, but you're booked, so you have to move them to us, and then we have to sit there and justify our prices all day because, like, so I'm like,
Maybe when the show come around. It's challenging. I guess when you set the tone with your clients for one thing and then you go to change it, and especially if you start off on the wrong foot. If you start off on the wrong foot, it's really hard to fix it. Really hard to
yeah.
fix it. You have to basically start from ground zero.
A lot of the brides I do are from out of town. They come in to get married in Louisville, but then they go home to Chicago or wherever. And so, like, then they try and tell their friends, like, oh, JessiKay did my henna, you should do her. And they're like, oh, but she's in Kentucky, we don't want to bother her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I travel. Like, you don't understand. And they're just like, well, how much is your travel? And I'm just like, oh, well, if I'm already going to be in the area, it'd be cheaper. But if I'm coming directly from Louisville, here's my, like, I do the, like, calculate the mileage or whatever. And so for a daily rate for 10 hours, that's 10 hours of work or travel or whatever. It's like from this time to this time, 10 hours, it's $850. And they seem to be cool with that.
Yeah.
So if the bridesmaids need to get theirs done at the same time or something, I'm just like, okay, well, then it's 75 an hour after that if you need additional things. And so I try and work with people's budgets and things. And I do try and do where I say, I need half down for the deposit. Or if you want to pay it in full, I'll do 10% off. But it has to be paid within 24 hours of the invoice. And then it's void. You can't wait until the day before and then go, oh, I'm just going to pay it in full now.
Yeah.
And I get the 10% right. I'm like, no, like, that was valid for 24 hours. Like, you pay me, that amount, or you just pay the half down and you pay the half, when it gets closer, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I get some people.
That's a really good tip. That's a really good tip. I feel like, because you always want to, like, put a little something out there that, like, that pushes urgency, and then at the same time, it's like, if you don't, well, then there's still the convenience of looking at this, at this amount, you can get half down or whatever, like, do half down and then half later. I like that. That's a good tip.
And I do payment plans. I'm like, do half down just to hold the date. And then you can pay $10 every week up till the day of, and it's paid off. Like, I don't mind that either, because people, like, my family could never afford to have entertainment. But maybe if there was a payment plan, they could have afforded it. Like, oh, if it's only $10 a week, till that day, sure. And so, like, I try and cater to my neighborhood a lot with that, because I know that people, don't have the best jobs, but they want their daughter to be the talk of the class, like, and that's
Yeah.
push too, is I'm just like,
Yeah.
dude, you're gonna be so popular today, like with the little girls that are like, yeah, and I'm just like, but still make it affordable, make it attainable.
Yeah.
That's another thing with posting on Instagram and stuff, is I like to post attainable options. But if I'm always posting the most elaborate, most beautiful things I do, then they're just like, yeah, that's really pretty for that event, for that occasion. So, like, I'm trying to get it more in people's heads of, henna doesn't need an occasion. So I'm really working on like a photo shoot of stain pictures, of people just at the grocery store reaching for chips, like things like that. Like, it's daily. It should be something that people see regularly.
I love
And
that. The everyday henna, like, I feel like if there were, and I think that like it's starting to grow, like the concept of the everyday henna, like henna
mhm,
can be, it can be a thing anytime. And
mhm.
I feel like that is starting to grow, but I love that you are speaking to that, like the photo shoot reaching for chips. I'm like, that's gold, because it does. It makes it, yeah, it makes it so approachable. Yeah. I'm like, now you have to do the shoot before this goes live. But like, yeah.
Right.
But no, like, yeah, that's gold. It's like, it is. It's taking that everyday piece and saying, hey, this you don't have to. It doesn't have to be your birthday, and you don't have to be getting married, and you don't have to be going on a cruise vacation before you need to book. Like, you can book this just because. I love that.
Yeah, like when people see my henna at like the grocery store, like, were you at a wedding? And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. And then they're always like, oh, because you're like, and they just like wait for me to tell them my ethnicity. And I'm just like, German? I'm actually mostly German, English, Irish. I am like white as white can be, but I just lucked out with features and darkness of hair and skin. So I've got the best of both worlds with. So there's one thing that I don't struggle with, is people accusing me of cultural appropriation.
That's interesting.
I don't deal with it, and I feel awkward about it, because I see my friends who are like blonde hair, blue eyed, and they're just like, well, I got yelled at today because I was doing henna. And then, the community comes and goes, no, they're wrong, and they know, but it still hurts, but yeah. I'm sitting there. Sometimes I was at a wedding one time and I was doing henna, and my friend was doing henna, like over off the way, and this girl comes over and she's just like, can you believe they let her come in and do henna? And I was like, what? Why is she not good? Is the design sucky? Like, what's wrong with their designs? And she's like, oh no, she's good. I'm like, then what's the problem? And she was just like, well, she's white. And I'm like, hi.
Awkward.
Oh, I mean, she's been doing it for like 3 years. She's really good. Like what's the problem? Like, and then doing the workshops and being like, did you know it originated in like all these different countries, and like wherever it grows is like it's in their cultures, it's used in like Africa, it's used in India, and they're just like, it's not, no. And I'm like, no, it is. Like, it's not just Indian, it's definitely Indian. It's definitely very prominent there, but it's not only there, and they're just like, oh. And so I get excited when I get to tell people and like kind of shock them that it's not just one culture. It's not a culture, it's a plant, like,
yeah.
But I've never had to struggle with, and I get kind of like a weird like white privilege guilt of like, I get to do this and people accept it. They just like, whoever it is, like, or if I'm at an all like party of like, so if I'm at an Indian wedding and I'm doing henna, and they come up and they try and talk to me in Punjabi or Urdu or something, and I'm like, oh no, sorry, I just speak English. And they're like, oh, you're white. that's so funny. Oh my gosh, like I thought you were Indian. Your henna's beautiful. And then they just like compliment me. And they're just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, thank you for putting the time in to do it right, kind of. And then just like are like grateful that I'm there. And I'm like, cool. Or I'm at a party though where I have another artist with me that is Indian and she's wearing a hijab or something. And some of the white girls get uncomfortable. And so they gravitate to me. And they're just like, oh, you're one of us. And so they like kind of separate us, set us in different places. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, dude, she's really cool. Like she's lived here her whole life. Like she doesn't like, it's like she understands what you're saying. Like she's a person. Like, come on. So I try and like, but I'm working too. So I'm like trying to like, it's hard. Like it's a like, so if I'm like at an all white party, like they're just like gravitate like, oh, you know what we're talking about and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, she's from right down the street. Like she lived with you like her whole life. Like, come on, like what? It's weird. And I don't know how to handle it. And I've like been trying to like think of different ways and I've reached out to different people and I'm just like, what do you want me to do? Because I don't want to speak for you because that's not helpful because I don't know the struggle. But at the same time, like I've had a lot of my friends say, you know, like, have you noticed lately, Anne Hathaway is very big in like doing public like PSAs kind of because she has the platform. People listen to her.
Yeah, allyship.
So like, if we give you the platform, please speak up. But if we didn't give you it, don't go running up there.
Yeah.
You know, like don't take the microphone from us. But if we hand it to you, don't be silent either.
That's an interesting. At the same time, I relate to it a lot, actually, a lot. In that when I'm in, like, if I'm in, and I talked about this recently in the Hennapreneur community, where one of the group members asked, like, what we thought about why people didn't come to her booth versus the booth that was across from her doing henna also. And the person that was across from her was, like, dressed up differently. She self-described as dressing as a gypsy, like, and so I started talking about Orientalism, and I think
I really try to avoid costumes. I really try to avoid costuming.
It's like it's a lot. It's so gross to me. Yeah, but you know, so I find though when like
to a festival.
Like, yeah,
me, you know,
right. I feel like, you know, there are times that I'll go and I'll enter into a space to work and it's like people see the hijab and they're like, oh, she knows what she's doing because she's from over there. And I'm like, dude, I'm from Texas. Like, and then there are spaces also where like it's like, I'm from Texas. And they're like, oh, so you are you're one of us versus one of them. And it's an interesting line to walk. Do you feel like as a henna professional, you have the obligation to educate, to like, do you feel like, it's just as we talk about like having the platform, if you're handed the mic, do you feel like having chosen this work is almost like you've got the mic whether you want it or not? Like, how do you feel about it?
I definitely think I have an obligation kind of to bring awareness of, you know, that it's in multiple cultures, against like cultural appropriation kind of stuff. But then also, you know, with natural henna as opposed to chemical henna, like I have banners and like I have little postcards that I hand to like everybody and I go over, I'm like, you know, if you're gonna do henna again, always ask your artists if it's natural. And then they're just like, well, my friend gets it from India and she's Indian and she knows what she's talking about. I'm like, that's what it becomes like, oh crap, like, yeah, I'm white, but I've been studying it for 6 years and like this is the science behind it. And so like I have those little handouts that like show the different pictures of the different styles and they're just like, oh yeah, I've got that at my house. I'm like, throw it out. You know,
Oh my god.
I'll just use it on paper. I'll just practice with it. And I'm just like, dude, the fumes alone make me have a migraine now. Like I used to use it before I knew better. And I get migraines from everything. Like stress induced is the main one though. And so I thought when I was at festivals, when I was getting migraines, I was like, by the end of the night, I'm like drawing like this. People are like, oh, you have a headache? That sucks. Like,
Oh my God.
one more, one more. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm just like drawing and just like, okay. And I'm just like, is it stress? Is it because like I'm stressed out? But then it was like those fumes were like constantly in my face and I was covered in it, you know. But then I switched to natural and it was much better. And then I was at a festival and I ran out. And so I sent my sister to the Indian store. I was like, well, just emergency cone, you know. I was just like, oh, just grab like 3 and I should be fine. And as soon as I opened it, that smell hit me and I was just like, I was putting this on people.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, I'm a jerk. Like, and it's just like, I still like threw it down. I was just like, I'm out of henna. No more henna. Sorry. Booth is closed. Like, never ever going to open that again. And I just didn't realize the difference until I was, you know, comparing them more. And I was just like, okay, no, I was wrong. Like,
yeah.
so
I feel like that's the experience for lots of us though. Like I feel like most artists, and it's like it's almost like everyone's dirty little secret. Like, oh, when I started, I used those cones too. But like no one's like, oh yeah, that was me. And but I feel like most of us walk that journey. Like
I always try and tell people when I use those, it gave me migraines, and I realized it later. Like I messed up and I used them, and this was my experience. And from now on, I will never go near them.
let me ask you, like, okay, switching gears a little bit. Switching gears. Tell me, like, because I'm so fascinated by your journey, and I want to know for you, like, from your perspective, what's the biggest professional accomplishment? I'll say that biggest professional accomplishment that you've had to date.
Being able to reach 3 years has been an accomplishment. Being able to say I've been full time doing just henna pretty much for 3 years is cool. I don't know, going to Budapest for the East-West Mending meet 2 years ago, I got to meet Darcy from Henna Lounge and all these other like Ginkists, Mary Ginkists, and learned like boudoir henna from her. And like, but when I got there, people knew who I was, and I'm like, I'm in another country. And the cool thing was I had a foot design. It was like Jaguar and henna, and so it was like still kind of the new to have that kind of thing going on, and they were just gorgeous matching feet. And I walked into the building that we were staying at, like this retreat, and these girls like saw my feet and were like, oh my god, we need pictures. And so like people are taking pictures of my feet, and then new people are walking in the building, and it looked like they were bowing at me, and I'm just like standing at my feet taking pictures of me, and they're just like, who is this? And they're just like, but then they looked at me and they saw my swirls and they're like, oh, it's JessiKay. And I'm just like, who are you? Like, crap, like this was so weird. It was just like, I guess that was the moment of like, it was just really weird. Like my feet were probably the most photographed henna that whole conference, and they weren't even done at the conference.
That is so fun.
They were just so gorgeous, and like I was taking pictures like walking on the streets with them, and like it was just really awkward. Like there was like 4 people at my feet, and then new people walking in, just like, who is it? Oh, it's her. And I'm just like, hi. And then like Darcy was sitting across from me. We went to lunch in Budapest. Like we were just walking around together, and I was just like the whole time like fangirling, like, oh, Henna Lounge is walking with me around Budapest. It's so cool. But like we were sitting there at lunch, and I said, yeah, this is my first year doing this full time. Like I just celebrated like last week. And she's just like, what? You've only been doing this a year. And I'm like, well, full time. I was like, I practiced for 2 years before I charged for it. And she's just like, but still, like, how are you in front of me right now? You know, just like, I'm like, I live and breathe henna. Like, that's all I do. Like, and she was just like, obviously. Like, she's just like, yeah, I know who you are. And, you know, she's like, you know, been around for like so long. And I was just like, hi, like, yeah, I just love it. So, and then the lead singer of Foo Fighters was just, I was just at a biker rally in LA last weekend, and I was doing henna at this biker rally, and he lives 4 blocks away, and just happened to walk through with his daughters, and I got to do his daughter's henna, and I'm just like one of my favorite musicians of all time. I'm doing his daughter's henna, and I was like shaking like crazy. I was just like, I feel like I just drank like 10 cups of coffee, and I don't drink coffee. God. So that was a big accomplishment for me, because he patted me on the back and told me I was a great artist. And I was just like,
Oh.
I was like, I could have paid, so I paid like $300 for that flight to get out there. And I'm like, I could have paid $300 to go to a Foo Fighters concert and still been in the nosebleeds and never met him.
Yeah.
But I just got to meet him and talk to him and then watch him play drums. And I was just like, this is the best day ever. So
That is so cool. That is so JessiKay, that's so cool. Oh my God. So like you're all over. I'm like, I remember seeing you be like, oh, by the way, there's this biker thing and I'm going, and I'm like, I think she's supposed to be in Denver this weekend, isn't she? And I'm like, when's she gonna fit in a flight to LA? Yeah, and so it's so funny.
My dad just threw it at me. He was like, "Oh my God, there's this biker rally, and it's a tribute to Dio, and Dio is like his favorite band of all time." So he like follows the fan page. Well, they made a calling out that they needed a henna artist, and he was like, my daughter does henna." He was like, "Jesse, you need to go." And I'm just like, Denver? Like, I'm supposed to be going on vacation kind of before my crazy season starts, and I'm just like, but it's LA, and the flights aren't too bad, and if I'm in Denver, I'm gonna be spending money, not making money. So if I go to LA, I'll make money. So I'll just go to LA. I've got friends there. Rosemary is in LA. She's like always like, oh, just stay with me. And so I'm just like, okay. So I stayed with Rosemary. So I'm just like, I got a place to stay. And then I got to meet Dave Grohl, and I saw like, people on Sunset Boulevard. And I'm just like, this is fun. And then I took a flight back to Denver and got to see Jess Saunders and get a back piece. You can't see it. It's okay. It's a Jaguar, and it's awesome. But I got to meet her, and so like every time I'm traveling, I try and post like, "Hey, I'll be in this place. Who wants to hang out?" But like this weekend, I knew I was just in and out kind of, so I didn't really think about posting. But but usually I try and let people know like a week in advance or something. I'm like, if you just want to get lunch, like if it's only, and two, I travel so much, like my drives are like 14 hours long. I'm like, oh, you're 45 minutes off the beaten path. Like, that's not bad. Like I can do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not far. And like when I'm at the end of my like trip, I'm like, only 2 more hours. Like people are like, 2 more hours.
2
Like,
hours. Yeah.
go do that.
How do you manage it? Like, how do you manage that's those expenses? Like, those are some solid investments in your business for you to be able to travel, like to do the thing. And I get that, like, part of that's going to be risky, but it can't always be risky, or else you wouldn't be doing it all the time. Like,
I don't post my bad days,
yeah,
but I learned that a long time ago too. You don't post your bad days, because everybody's having a bad day, and they'll just, that sucks, and then it just bums them out. They can't fix it for you. So then what's it going to do? So I don't post my bad days, but I do have a smart car. So I can get like 47 miles to the gallon. I don't mind sleeping in my car. I don't have to pay for the hotel rooms and all that stuff. But nowadays, when I travel, usually I know someone in that town, and I'm just like, can I crash on your couch? And it works out. And I wing it a lot. I'm just like, hope it works out. But I get a lot of my freedom driving. It de-stresses me. So if I have to drive 6 hours to an event, I'm like, cool, I got a lot of free time to think. Like, and a lot of times I don't even listen to music, and I'm like, because I'm like driving for like 3 hours, and I'm like, I've been in silence for 3 hours, like just thinking about stuff, and like a lot of business ideas. But then I'm like, I really need to record these things. Like, go like, hey Siri, whatever, like make a note, I need to do this when I get home, and I don't. But I probably could be a millionaire now if I pursued all the things that I wanted to do in my car travels. But no, and then I bring my merchandise with me everywhere I go. Obviously, I wear my henna. Right now, I just scrubbed it off, but I want to do something new for this weekend. But I'm always wearing my henna, and then I usually have my own t-shirts on. Today, I'm wearing one of my friend's shirts that says Kentucky. But usually, I have my own designs on my shirts. People go, "Oh, that's a neat shirt." I'm like, "Thank you. I designed it myself. I have some in the car. Do you want one?" I'm just like, it's only $20. So I'm always kind of having my stuff with me all the time. I you sell powder now, supply powder. So I'm just like, oh, do you want to learn? And then my powder I got made with, I put the ingredients, so like how to make it on the back, kind of like baking. And then I'm just like, but if you have problems with it, like hit me up and I'll teach you, so then I charge them, an hourly for a lesson.
Yeah.
So it builds on that too.
Yeah.
And then I do lessons at some local shops. And they also, that's an accomplishment. Okay. So I have my henna powder, but I don't just ship it. I don't just sell it out of my booth. I actually have it in stores in town. They're local shops, but I mean, it kind of makes me feel like legit. I'm just like people buy my henna and then they
At a
see it out in
store.
town.
I love it.
Yeah. Like, oh, your powder is on the shelf over there. That's your name. I'm just like, yeah. Like, it's only been about a month and a half that I've had it at stores, but I've got 2 stores now. It's soon gonna be 3 because they're opening another one in another state. So I'll have it in 2 states.
That is so cool. So tell me, what is the story behind the diamond?
Somebody asked me to sign a design on their leg. It was like a peacock on their leg. They're like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. You have to sign it. And I'm just like, is it with my name? That's kind of weird. And then I was really worried that she was going to smush it. Not my name, but the peacock. And then my name would be perfect. And it'd be like, oh, that's a lovely smush. Who did that?
Yeah.
Okay, So I was just like, eh. But I had been doing drills the night before, and I had been practicing diamonds. And I had been practicing them all night, so my hands were in that motion the next day for the festival. And so when I'm at the festival, they were like, she was like, oh, can you sign it? I'm like, what if I just did like a little cute thing off to the side, like a diamond, And she was like, oh, okay. But there was a group of girls behind her, and they were like, oh, when she does our design, she's gonna put a diamond in it. And I was just like, oh, okay. And so it was a thing for the day. And so for the rest of the day, every time I did a personal design, I would sign it with a diamond. But if it was like a Divya design or something, somebody came with their phone, I'm like, that's not mine. I can recreate it, but I'm not going to sign it.
Yeah.
Because it's just not, unless I change it like 40% or something, I really never sign them with my diamond. So like if I do a generic like yin and yang or something, I usually don't sign it. But if I add enough like swirls around it and like make the whole design and there's a yin yang in it, obviously I'll still put my diamond to the side. But yeah, so it's been kind of cool. Like henna artists know me for my diamond in the henna community, but now with my clients, they're always passing it on. Like if you go to her and you get a personal design, you're getting a diamond in it. And then like their friends come to the appointment and they've got their phone with their Pinterest ideas, and then their friend who got the design first is just like, put that away. Like you can't get her design with the diamond if you're gonna have it on Pinterest, And then I'm just like, they spoke for me, and it's nice that I don't have to be like weird about it. But or they'll come with their phone and they'll show me, and I'm like, I can do that, but I can't put my diamond in. They're like, change it. No, I want the diamond. And I'm just like, so it's almost like I'm like a brand, like Nike with the check kind of thing. It's like I'm a little diamond. So like when they're walking around with their like designer henna diamond on it, I'm just like, I didn't mean for it to be that way. And of course the diamond, it was just a practice thing. I wasn't like gonna stick with that as my symbol, but it works. And I always do the same amount of lines in it, so it's always the same size, same like locations, like that too, like the position of it is almost a design, like a signature in itself. Like people can use diamonds in their designs. I'm never saying you can't use a diamond in the design because that's mine. But if you recreate my designs, I always ask to replace it with a flower or just leave it out, because a lot of times it's just floating off to the side. It makes no sense to anybody else. And so if they recreate that design, that floral design, just don't put that random diamond on there, because that's mine, that's my name.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that part of it. So I did the ebook. I do have an ebook with designs, but the diamond is floating off in between the corner of the fingers of the drawing. So when people pick that in their design book and they see the design, they're not expecting that diamond to be on the hand. But when they see it, and then they can ask the artist, like, what's up with that diamond like floating there? But it's in between the fingers. They can't crop it out.
Yeah.
If they were to cut the picture or anything like that, it's in between fingers. But it's like, oh, that's JessiKay's design book. She put the diamond in the designs, but it's just kind of floating off to the side. So, and that's how I kind of navigated that one, because people are like, oh, we want designs from you, like in an ebook or festival books. But I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to lose that diamond. But at the same time, I don't want you putting it in your designs. And then, people who buy the books are usually beginners, and they're like not going to execute it the same way. And I'm like, I don't want my pictures then to be on my designs being seen with the diamond in it, and it's like sloppy, and I'm like, oh crap, that's not me. Like that wasn't mine. So it was like kind of hard to like figure out how to navigate that one. So I was like, no, I'll just float it off to the side. Still a conversation piece of sorts if somebody were to inquire, but it's not expected to be in the design.
Yeah.
And then my festival books are all photos, and they've got the design on them, and people just expect it to be in there. They're just like, oh, I want that design. And then I do the design and the diamonds in it, because it's in the picture.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll ask, oh, can you replace the diamond with a flower or something? I'm like, I can, but just so you know, the reason the diamond's there is my signature. They're like, oh, that's really cool. Never mind. Sorry, leave it. Like, oh, I didn't know. So I've never had anybody be like, that's stupid. I don't want that on me. Like, yeah. The only people who have ever complained about me doing the diamond are other henna artists that think it's silly. They're just like, I just don't understand why you don't change it to like your initials or something. Like, why a diamond? Like, that's a generic symbol. Like, that's a generic shape, and you can't claim the diamond. I'm like, I didn't claim the diamond. It's the positioning of it. It's if it's in my design, don't recreate it and use it in it. Like, that's the only time I say don't use it, is just when you recreate my design.
Yeah.
So, and they're just like, yeah, I just really think you should do something different. And I'm just like, well, the more you say that, the more I want to do it. Like, I'm just like, and then it's like, they're like, people don't know that that's your symbol. Like, people don't know. I'm like, they don't know yet. I'm like,
I know that's right.
I'm like, I've been doing it for almost over 2 years now. And in 5 years, I really think it's going to be a thing. So I'm just going to continue doing it. So even though not everybody knows yet, it will be a thing.
It's a long game. Yeah. For you, like, if what for you over the course of your career and your journey, what's been the biggest lesson that you've had? Personally, professionally, doesn't matter.
Personally, definitely talking more. Just pushing myself to really talk, but then I get hesitant with talking, because then I'm like, how much did I just talk about myself? And I'm like, I have to even it out, and then be like, I gotta go listen to people. And then I'll like seek out the friend that I know has drama going on, and I'm just like, do you need to talk? Like, I'll just listen, just so I feel like mentally, like morally, like gotta weigh out the difference. But yeah, talking more. When I meet new artists and I get excited to meet them, and then they want to ask me all the questions, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, I really did want to know about you, but then it's like 2 a.m, and I'm like, okay, I really need to get to bed because I got to hit the road at 6, and then I'm just like, I just talked about myself the whole time. But then I'm just like, I just have to apologize a million times. Sorry, I just talked about me. And they're just, but at the same time, I'm just like, I need to get a script to ask people small questions or something. Don't keep doing that to myself because then I feel guilty. I'm just like, I hope they don't think I'm all about myself because I just suck at asking questions, you know. But and then like professionally, biggest learning curve is financially just not counting the money till it's in my hand.
Yeah.
And budgeting certain things. Like I know my rent is due at this time, so I can't be spending money if this is needed to be done. Um, Sometimes, like I really don't like debt. I don't have debt.
Hmm.
I am not at zero anymore, but close. Like
Yeah.
like honestly, like I was always at the I'm not thriving, but I'm not just surviving.
Yeah.
Like for a long time, for the last 2.5 years, I was just surviving. Like, but I didn't let people know that, like my bank account just went negative, but I'm working a festival right now. So hopefully by the end of the day, I'm okay.
Hmm.
Like it was always, I would go negative like the day of an event, so I'm like, just play it cool, just play it cool. But then if it rained, I really felt like my energy just reeked of desperation and people
Mm.
would avoid my booth. Like I felt like a bubble was just over my booth and people would be walking along like totally straight across like all these booths. Then all of a sudden they would just like kind of like there was an orb just like walking. They just had to avoid that energy. And
Yeah.
I was just like, what is wrong with me? Like, do I smell? Like, what's going on? Like, and then I just would like catch myself in like a reflection. I'm like, oh, because like I look like I'm about to cry. Like, nobody wants to walk into a booth like that. Like,
Yeah.
just smile and wave, like it's fine. It's just pretend it's fine. Fake it till you make it, like,
Yeah.
and so a lot of it was fake it till I make it kind of life. But now where I'm, I have other means of income coming in and I kind of have the notoriety a little bit with my name, like um it's kind of cool.
So cool. So let me
That
ask
happens.
you, if you were to leave like a message, if you were to leave a message, a memo, a piece of advice, a suggestion, encouragement, whatever, to the henna artist who's like 2 steps behind you, who wants to live the traveling henna artist life, or who is like, yeah, that's like they feel like that's their calling. What would you say to that person?
Okay, for the person who's 2 steps behind me, so they wouldn't be a beginner.
Hmm.
Hmm, Probably planning ahead, at least 2 weeks in advance before traveling, making an event on Facebook. Maybe not even paid advertising, but somewhere you can send people to when you say, oh, I'm going to be at this event. Don't just tell them about it because they're not going to remember. Like, click the link to it, like, send them the link so that it pops up in their feed.
Right.
Like,
So tell me, like, for people, if they want to catch you, because you're on social, where can they find you if they want to connect with you?
Facebook is JessiKay Henna page or whatever. And then my last name is Graham. So if you want to add me, um, and then Instagram is JessiKay1991. And it's all lowercase. JessiKay1991. And then I have a website, but it's really long because when I bought my domain, it was for when I lived in the Highlands. And so I wanted to be locational. So it was called Henna in the Highlands by JessiKay.com. So it's a bit long, but once you get it, then when you open the page, it says JessiKay Henna on the website or whatever. But and then that has my links to my Acuity. All of my Acuity is linked to all of those in my like links or whatever.
Hmm.
But and then I sell my powder. Personally, I sell it through like just Facebook chat. I'll just send you an invoice through PayPal, whatever. But I do have it on Etsy. Um, and then I sell it storefront in a few places. So if I'm out of town, it's nice to be like, oh, I'm traveling right now, but you can go run over to the art store and it's right there, you know, like go get it. And I don't sell cones, like pre-made cones, unless they're local. I don't ship. Um, but so yeah, social media, the Facebook and Instagram. I do have a Twitter, but I don't know how to use it.
Me neither. I have I have it. Don't use it ever.
Yeah, when I post on Instagram, it says like the options to share it to Facebook and and Twitter and Tumblr, and I'm like, I don't have Tumblr.
For us, like within the Hennapreneur community, or like the henna community at large, right? Like
Yeah.
what can we do to help support you, to help support you personally, or JessiKay Henna? Like, what can we do for you?
Well, I sell my powder, and it's really dope. Um, I wish I had like a fresh stain on. This is like the gross, like grease going away. I mean, this was so dark. Like you could still see the strip on the center.
Mm-hmm.
But I wore it overnight. I wore it for like 6 hours before bed. I got up. I did it right before bed, and then I put a pillow in between my head, and so like I can't move it. So it's really freaking dark. But uh, but I sell mine when I'm shipping it. Like on my Etsy account, it's like $8.50 a bag, but at the storefront, it's $10. And then if I'm out in town, like if I have it on me, I'm like $10. You know, so. But when I'm shipping it, it's $8.50 on my accounts or whatever. So, and then I do shirts, but I have a lot of inventory. I've got like over 100 t-shirts that I'm trying to get rid of. They're $20 each, but they're made really well. They're screen printed. And they're on my Facebook. They're not on Etsy because they are an inventory thing, and I have to like when I take them to festivals and then I sell a small and then I sell a small online, I'm like, crap, did I just resell the same one? And I get them screen printed, so I have to get them made in batches of 12 at a time. And so I try and do pre-orders. I try and say, you know, if you want this design, tell me the size, pay for it, and then you get that size, you know. But if you don't pre-order it, I can't promise that I'm going to have your size. And then I'm just stuck with inventory. So a lot of times if I don't get enough like interest in a design, then I won't make it because I don't want to have that inventory because I have to pay the screen printer to make them, you know, so then I have to resell them, you know. So right now I'm trying to get rid of a lot of inventory. So if you go to my Facebook page, on my personal page, I have them all for sale there. And I do have the sizes listed of what's available of each one. There's like a mandala one that I have. I have the USA shape. I wish I had them with me. But it's the USA with henna filled inside it. And that one I sold to get to HennaCon. I did pre-orders for that. I said, if anybody wants to buy these, this is paying for my gas, you know, and I sold like 50 shirts and that, you know, for 20 each. So that helped me get to California.
That is so cool.
It, you know, and so a lot of my shirts have reasons I'm selling them. A lot of times I do fundraisers with shirts, like somebody's going through breast cancer, so I'll design a henna shirt for her, and then all the proceeds go to her GoFundMe kind of thing. So people have to pre-order though and tell me their size so that I'm not like stuck with extras and all that craziness. But so things like that.
Awesome. Oh, that's so cool. Well, you know what? I want to thank you. Like, I have to thank you, JessiKay, for coming and like, and for sharing your journey, like sharing your story, sharing the insights. So, like, I feel like I know you so much better. And it's so funny because on social, like, everyone has their perception of the artists around them and whatnot. So to hear your story from you is like, I love it. I love it. So I have to thank you for that.
No, thank you.